Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for giving up your Saturday mornings, and big thanks to Bloomberg for giving us a really classy venue to, you know, uplift the debate on something so important. I think it's about 2 years ago when I came to the Living Street Saturday Conference for London, and at that point, you know, I was an Assembly member in opposition, and I thought I was actually looking at retirement shortly, and we'd just done the Assembly walking report because we were trying to keep the flame alive for the future, because I was chairing the Assembly Transport Committee, and I never actually, and I said, you know, we've got to make walking sexy, you know, we've got to make walking cool. And I never actually imagined that somebody upstairs must have been listening, and it's not God, it was Sadiq Khan. And actually, here I am, I'm Deputy Mayor for Transport, so now I've got to walk my talk, actually. I'm going to talk my walk as well now. John showed a picture of the mayoral hustings in 2012, where I was actually Ken Livingstone's deputy candidate for that one, because he and I had worked together sort of 2000, 2008, because I was chairing the fire brigade then, believe it or not. And I looked at that photograph and I thought, you know what, I have actually lost some weight. I've lost 2 stone. And the reason why I've lost 2 stone is because it's not that I've upped my door knocking for campaigns. It's actually because my husband bought me am I allowed to say a brand name? He bought me a Fitbit 3 years ago, because I've always been a keen walker, but now there's some science behind it, and I've been doing 10,000 steps a day. I've done it for 3 years, and I know will talk about this, but the health impacts are absolutely profound. And actually, you know, you eat less and you exercise more, and the way you do it is you walk between your meetings. Isn't that great? It's just obvious. It is a great time to be thinking about how we can improve the experience of walking and travelling around London. I think we are actually in a golden moment where urban designers, transport planners, campaigners, health people, we're all community leaders, we're all saying, let's rediscover the city as a place where we live. Let's get this beast of the car under control. And I think part of the reason why we're coming back to it strongly in London is because we did have a good time when we were actually moving ahead with those things. And actually when the last mayor was in there, Boris, for the first term and a half, I would say, his priority was smoothing the traffic. And we saw the impact of that in our daily lives. We saw the struggles we had to get new bus priority lanes in. We saw the struggle we had to get new pedestrian crossings in. They basically banned it. They said, we're not going to put any new pedestrian crossings in, and you can only put one in here if you take one out further down. The car became king again for a minute. But very interestingly, by the end of Boris Johnson's term of office, he noticed, he'd learned something. He'd learned something the hard way, which is actually the motor car is a false god, and if you worship it, you will just get more of them. He'd actually appointed a cycling commissioner to start doing some belated and, you know, and very good work on cycling. But actually, you know, by that stage, it was his new legacy was fighting his old legacy, and we had a very fractious period where all of that bike lash that was talked about, I think, became an issue in London. So we've got a chance to press the refresh button. And that's what we're doing, because the mission for us is make the Healthy Streets Agenda, we're calling it. And there's a policy document on the Transport for London website that I hope you will download and have a look at it. You will know all this because you're Living Streets activists. But this is the initial overarching policy document for Healthy Streets. We are putting ourselves in the walking seat, we'll say driving seat, with administrative changes, budgetary changes, and policy changes, and our new walking and cycling commissioner to promote active transport in this city, by which I mean walking, cycling, and public transport. Public transport, walking, so closely correlated together. So it's really inspiring to see how other cities, New York in particular, have made these transformations. We're starting in a different place, but there's a transformation to be done. So we are about to re-begin the making of a transformation to make London a walking, cycling, active transport, public transport city, a better place to live. We reckon there's 6.5 million door-to-door walked trips a day in London, and that's actually equates to about a quarter of all trips. Many of those are actually quite short, and we've brought our data. Jeanette, we brought our data. Each day, Londoners make 2.4 million trips that could, we think, be walked, but aren't currently. 2/3 of those are made by car. So outer London is still particularly car dependent. And if you look at it, the congestion charge area is quite small in central London. So we need to be removing the barriers that people are facing to walking, making walking a better place, London a better place to walk. The walking is key to addressing the inactivity crisis we're facing in London. I think one of the things that's made everybody come back round to this argument, this agenda, is the one I made earlier about all of the health crisis we're facing at the moment. Obesity, all of that, inactivity, is such a driver of poor health in our community. And we have a massive concern about poor air quality in London, and as you do in Manchester and Leeds and Birmingham as well. I'm a Mancunian in exile, so I know about what the air is like in Manchester. I go back there, see my brother. We have this problem in our cities. And Londoners have got it and are supporting Mayor Sadiq Khan's programme for air quality improvement. So all of what he's doing with introducing ultra-low emission zones, in fact, the first toxicity charge will be coming in from this October. So this programme is really active and live, and we're cleaning up the buses very, very rapidly. All of that is supported by shifting London towards active transport. So what you'll see in the book, this little rainbow circle is just a reminder to us of our assessment tool. The Healthy Streets approach, we're calling it, is basically a mechanism, a methodology for delivering our new focus on walking, but also cycling and public transport. Some of you may be familiar with this, and I just wanted to mention it a little bit. I want you to have a look at it. The Healthy Streets approach basically has 10 indicators of what it is that makes a healthy street. And the healthy street is what makes the healthy people and the healthy community. And those indicators that are in there will be basically any projects and schemes we do. The project will be assessed against those schemes. It does allow, obviously, for a lot of local variation. It does mean that this tool can be used in inner and outer and middle London. It's something that can be adapted to everywhere. And it will give the kinds of questions that I hope are clearly commonsensical and understandable and will guide the work we're doing. So the pink one in the corner, is the street easy to cross? Is the red one, is there shade, is there shelter? Is it a nice place to be, basically? And all of that is within this assessment tool. Shortly, we will be publishing our Mayor's Transport Strategy. We did our big business plan for 5 years in December last year, and quite a struggle getting a business plan together in this day and age for 5 years. And in that, we found the money to support the Healthy Streets programme. The Mayor's Transport Strategy is the next thing that comes out. It's a 25-year document, and that draft will be out in May. So I do encourage you to have a look at it, see if there's anything of interest in there to you. And actually at the heart of it, this methodology, Healthy Streets, the vision for Healthy Streets, is in there. We will be setting some targets as well. So we will be setting, for example, as well as the Vision Zero, etc. targets, we will be setting a target for all Londoners being able to walk or cycle for at least 20 minutes as part of their daily routine. So probably the first time a transport strategy has actually had a health promotion target in it. Oh, I think that's the wrong one. There we go. So there's £2.1 billion in TfL business plan over 5 years to create a Healthy Streets portfolio. I need you to understand, everybody, oh yeah, London, you've got loads of money, you're okay. I thought, well, we've had to cut £4 billion out of the next 5 years programme because we are no longer a city that receives any transport revenue subsidy at all. That's phased out within the next 2 years. So we're having to wash our own face, and if I can just extend the moan, we don't get any vehicle excise duty money at all either. So this is all what we do from our fares and from our own commercial property portfolio. It's very hard to find this money, but this is really at the heart of the mission about making London a more beautiful, a better, a more efficient, a cleaner and a healthier city. So we found the money. Because it matters. That portfolio money will be available to boroughs. We've got 33 local councils within London who run 95% of the streets in London. We only run the red routes, but we grant aid the boroughs, and their transport plans have to sit inside London's overarching transport strategy, so they have to conform in some way. Actually, I have to say, London's boroughs pretty much cross-party are up for this, because as the city, they're really supportive. As the city grows, the only way to make sense of the density of our city in terms of our road efficiency and our quality of life is to get people walking and cycling and using public transport. It's all obvious stuff. So we have to make the best use of the congested roads we've got, and that means walking and cycling, as I've talked about. I was pleased to hear your president, talk about Oxford Street. It's one of our big projects. It was in Mayor Sadiq Khan's manifesto. When the Crossrail 1 project, which is actually going to be called the Elizabeth line, so there'll be a purple line on the tube map, it's the Elizabeth line, opens, a section of it opens, not all of it, in December, we will have to be ready with having relieved a lot of Oxford Street of its traffic. We're starting the work on that now. But by the end of a sequence of stages, we will have pretty much a pedestrianised Oxford Street, because Oxford Street won't work without it. And we're going for a high quality local regime. So Oxford Street is a really important project. But of course, there are going to be, and there will be projects everywhere. I think Jeanette had something similar to this. It's the same road, it's Orford Road. It's in Walthamstow. This agenda is relevant to outer London as well as inner London. This street was transformed as part of the Walthamstow Mini Hollands. So credit to Andrew Gilligan, who was doing the work for Boris at the end of his administration, who did the work with Waltham Forest. This is a transformed street. We used to have to show pictures of bits of Holland if you wanted to show a mini Holland and how walking and cycling could be grafted properly into our local urban landscape. Now we've got some British examples, and I think this is a really, really nice one. So we are going to continue to invest in our town centres, and we're going to do a lot of that through our investment through local boroughs. And a lot of these little projects will add up strategically to that transformation. At the back of house, one of the things that really matters to us, we have 8 statutory strategies for London. There's the London plan, which I think Jeanette flashed up on the screen, which is the grand land use plan of London. So it frames all our planning decisions, but it's also the vision of how the city should be changing and regenerating. So the Mayor's Transport Strategy, which is the first strategy out, and that says something very important. We are also locking and loading with the London plan to make sure that where the Mayor's London plan comes out, the spatial strategies, things like car parking standards in developments, etc., fit in with what we're trying to achieve. And also our transport strategy supports our regeneration plan and our environmental strategy. In fact, the environmental strategy, 50% of it is basically derived from what we're doing on transport, but not all of it. So, you know, we're locking and loading on all of these interlocking, supporting strategies to get back on track in making this city a success. I'm coming to the end. So the last thing to say, I think, is we talked a lot about the physical changes we need to make. We do need also to do promotional work and educational work and celebrate the city. And I think we are well on track to do all of that. I hand you over now to our new walking and cycling commissioner, who is a man with a plan, who is going to be absolutely crucial to the delivery of this strategy, this vision for London. And I just want to say, I think it really, really matters to us. It matters to Mayor Sadiq Khan if people will get behind this mainstream agenda. We think, you know, it might not be perfect, not everything we do everywhere will be perfect, but we need all of us to be singing from the same song sheet about progress and the future. You know, many of us have come to all of this from a sort of campaigning, oppositionist, combative base. So when you're in power, you actually have to focus on delivery. And I really, really think that your partnership, your role in all of this is about that thing, about us all singing from the same song sheet and singing a great song together. So thank you very much indeed.